and welcome to Messages of Hope. I'm your host, Jill Lublin. I'm the author of 3 best-selling books, Guerrilla Publicity, Networking Magic, and my newest one on McGraw-Hill, Get Noticed, Get Referrals. Tonight, we have a fabulous guest, Donna Allen. She is an author and an airplane crash survivor. Thank God for that. Welcome, Donna.
Thank you for having me.
I'm glad to be here. We met many years ago, and I remember taking a class with you, and I was just so struck by your story, and I'm sure our viewers would want to hear your story. Tell us, if you would. Let's start with, I know you have stories of abuse and stories of an airplane crash. So let's start with the airplane crash.
The airplane crash. My boyfriend was a pilot, and we were going to go back east to visit his family, and his son was in the airplane as well. He was the pilot, and the son was sitting next to him, and I was sitting behind the pilot, and we flew out of Hayward Airport, and we were going to go back east, I guess, to stop at certain points to regas, and I decided to go to sleep. I said I wanted to take a nap. He says, "Okay, babe, go to sleep." So I took a nap, and I woke up to the two of them arguing. His son would argue with him a lot, and I was wondering what was going on. I asked, "What's going on?" And no one said anything. They looked at each other, and I didn't say anything because I wanted to find out what's going on. And then finally the son said, "We flew off course." And I said, "Well, where are we?" He said, "I don't know." And he usually didn't yell at me. He never yelled at me, but so I said, "I'm going to be quiet." Yeah. And I looked and looked around, and there was just, I guess, fields of farm land or something like that, if I can remember. Yeah. But as he was talking to the air traffic controllers, and he was trying to find out where the airport was. And he told them where their location was. There was a coal mine, and so they directed them toward the airport, but I saw the gas gauge going down. Oh. And I was afraid we weren't going to make it. We got close to it, and all of a sudden the propeller, or rather the engine stopped, and the propellers were going around through centrifugal force. Oh. And he learned how to land in a situation like that, but we didn't have any power. We got close to the airport. I could see the runway in front of me, but I couldn't reach it. So he tried to land. I put my seatbelt on because I knew we were going to go down. And as we got closer, I could hear the, what do you call it? The stall alarm going off. It's just a constant, which was deafening to me. And I braced myself, and the first thing I heard was the son screaming, and I could see him on the side of me screaming with terror. And then I heard the pilot scream. I was screaming, but I couldn't hear myself. And the ground started rushing toward me, and that's all I remember.
Wow. So you actually remember many moments up to the crash.
And I had amnesia, and I was in a coma for about a month. And I didn't remember for about 5 years. It came to me in the form of flashbacks. Really? And flashbacks, I heard of them on television, but I didn't think they were real until it happened to me. They're so vivid. It's like you're there. You feel, you smell the fragrances, and you taste the tastes of it. And I was taking a computer class. I was feeling good. I was on my own, had my own place, and I looked up in the sky, and there was an airplane. And I had this irrational fear. I thought, well, let me hurry up and move, or it's going to crash on me. All of a sudden, I had my last flashback, which was up to that moment when the ground rushed toward me.
And that was the feeling of it.
Yes.
Now, the son and your boyfriend didn't survive.
No. The son, the seat where he was sitting had dislodged from the mount, and he crashed forward, and his face and front body was messed up. And he died instantly. And I read from the report that the pilot, my boyfriend, died maybe about 5 minutes later. There was a a truck near the freeway. He saw the plane go down. He ran across the field and saw us there. He saw that I was in shock, and there was a metal instrument that pierced the pilot's chest, and he died maybe about 15 minutes later.
Oh, wow. And so you, I mean, not only have lost some dear one in your life, but also now you had many, many years of recovery, right?
Right.
So what happened during this recovery time? You said you were in a coma.
Yeah, I was in a coma in a hospital in Salt Lake City, LDS, Latter-day Saints Hospital. All I remember is being there for about 2 weeks. But I do remember kind of being not in a full coma, sort of a wake-sleep cycle, where I remember some things, and they were strange memories. There were tubes down my nose to my stomach, pumping out whatever, and it had IVs on my chest as well as my wrists. And I remember wanting to take them out. So when the nurse left, I pulled out the tube and I took all the IVs off. The nurse came back in. She says, "What are you trying to do? Are you trying to kill yourself?" I thought, "Oh God, I was free." And then she rushed out and put everything back in. And then they tied my arms with socks on the armrests. And my mother and my grandmother, they were there. They flew out there to be with me, and they told them to you can talk to her and you can take them off, take the socks off while you're talking to her, but make sure she doesn't pull everything out again.
Oh, so how old were you at this time?
I was 23.
And obviously life changed.
Yes.
In that moment from then on. Now, what was your diagnosis? Were you actually paralyzed from that point on? Yeah,
the impact of the airplane crushed my vertebrae like the bellows of an accordion. So my injury, it's at my navel level, T12L1, my navel level. So I don't have any movement from my waist down.
But you can move from the waist up.
Yeah, and I also with the crash. My brain ricocheted within my skull, and I had a massive head injury, and my brain actually swelled.
Do you still have brain damage?
No, I believe I'm better than I ever been. I'm so
Are you
happy.
Smarter than you've ever been?
Yes. I'm very blessed.
Oh, that is wonderful. How long were you actually in rehabilitation for?
For about 9 months, because I had to do surgery. I had internal injuries. They had to fix my pipes, my intestines, and they also did surgery on my back.
Wow. Did you feel, we'll call it without hope? I mean, what were some of your first thoughts as you realized what really happened to you, as you realized the loss of your boyfriend and his son?
Well, I felt sad about that.
Yes.
And I realized that I'm alive. I'm so glad I'm alive, and I asked God, I said, please let me live, because I want to do it right. I want to do my life right. Although I did it the best that I could under the circumstances. I didn't do anything bad. It's just I felt so grateful to be alive.
And you had to learn to do everything over again, right?
Yes, it was like when I came out of the coma, it was like I was a little baby again, and I didn't know how to talk, my mother said. And then gradually I did talk and began to move around and been able to understand my surroundings and things like that.
And could you remember anything of who you were? You said you had amnesia.
I know who I was. In fact, I remember my mother came into the hospital room, and she said, "Hello, Donna," and I said, "Hi, Mommy," like a child. And I said, "What happened?" She said, "You were in an airplane crash." And I thought about it, and I said, "Well, are the others okay?" I didn't know who the others were. I don't understand why I knew this. And she lowered her head and she pursed her lips, and she said, and she just shook her head. And I said, "Well, somebody must have died, but who?" And then I had short-term memory, so I just forgot about that.
And how long did it take you to recover actually from the brain injury piece of it?
I don't know. I don't know. It was gradual, rapid, I guess. But when they flew me to a hospital in San Jose, as a spinal cord rehabilitation hospital, I was frightened. I knew I was going to, I just had these irrational fears that I would die. This time, if I didn't die the first time, I died this time.
You mean being flown over?
Yes, exactly. And I had a psychiatrist look at me and test me to see how my memory was. And I had the irrational fear that I better give him the right answer because he's going to think I'm crazy. And there was a psychiatric ward next door. And at night I could hear, I heard a woman say, I need to get out of here. There's nothing wrong with me. And I asked the guy in the bed next to me, what was that? He says, oh, that's the psycho ward. So when I saw the psychiatrist, I was thinking, if I didn't give him the right answer, they're going to put me in that psych ward.
Oh.
So
On top of everything else,
on top
right?
of everything else, yeah.
It's interesting how the mind goes, right? You're recovering from pretty serious physical injuries, and yet what were you worried about? Getting admitted to the psycho ward.
Yeah.
That's interesting. What, as you were, I mean, you're young, you're vital, you know, you were living this life, and then obviously so much shifted. What were your thoughts for the future at that point? Did you think you had one? Did you, what did you see for yourself? Do you remember?
I didn't really think about my future. I was thinking about the pain, the physical pain that I was in, and trying to maneuver this wheelchair and get strong. And I remember that when I was in the physical therapy rooms, getting stronger and learning how to handle myself, I tapped into my experience when I played the violin. I was accepted in a music program at UC Berkeley as the Young Musicians Program for young gifted children who were low income, and they gave you private lessons, and also we played in the string ensemble and music. We sang in the chorus, went on trips and things like that. And I learned about focus, challenge, integrity, responsibility, confidence, and dedication. And I drew from that when I did my physical therapy, and I worked very hard because I wanted to be independent again. I didn't know what was going to be, what was there for me in the outside world, but I wanted to be prepared for it.
Do you still play violin?
No, right now I'm doing a lot of writing, reading, and things like that, but I listen to classical music. I love to do that, especially in my car.
So you grew up playing violin, right?
Yes.
And that actually, I love that's a strength you drew from, the very, well, traits that made you probably a very great violinist, yes?
Right. And as an adult, I also played in the University Symphony Orchestra. And when I was with my boyfriend, he wasn't the greatest boyfriend. He would pull me one way. He was a general contractor, and he talked me into working in his office, pulling me one way, and my music trying to pull me the other way, and I didn't know what to do, but I loved my music because my music saved my life. While I was in the abusive situation that I was in, I would run to my violin, and I escaped into the music.
Well, let's talk about that for a moment, because I know that you have had abuse in your life. Was this when you were a child?
About when I was 8 years old, my parents